Crypto, Fed cuts rates, but Powell. Oh my goodness. I know crypto has gone up truthfully, Bitcoin is right around its yearly open of this entire year. Hasn't done anything, but it feels like a bear market, which is crazy. Freaking crazy that it feels that bad. But we have QE ended on quantitative easing, tightening, sorry, QT ended. And now we are going to turn on the printer. And this is somewhat of turning on the printer, but Powell said that starting tomorrow, December 12th, well, I guess that's Friday, right? They will purchase 40 billion worth of treasury bills. And that to me is just that, turning on the printer, which is very important for us to get to a Santa rally, which everyone is hoping for. And we're in this continuing downtrend, but I know the sentiment is so much different. Okay. Because if we look at the fear and greed, we are getting out of where it's been the worst ever is extreme fear at 10, right? And I've got $120,000 trade going that's at like 2.5x. So it's like 350 is what I've got moving for. And I'm down about 40 grand right now, but I still believe that we can see 117 by Christmas, maybe 120 coming into January. But the sentiment is changing. And what I mean by sentiment is so much fear has been on Twitter. Like every time I've gone to Twitter, it just is awful, but it's changing. It is starting to look like guys are trying to be more bullish now, even though Powell was not. So if I go back to the chart here, this 4 hour that I think just closed, right? So I got to zoom into this. I'm going to get rid of the trend line here. And it did. Man, it looks like a shooting star, but it's not at the top. Okay, so it's definitely the shooting star type of a candle, but it's not at the top. If I look at the daily, right, the daily is just inconsistent. It doesn't know what the hell it's doing. We have a gigantic volume node with the point of control really right around the night. Well, actually, the point of control is at 112, right? And I see us definitely potentially getting back there because yes, the moving averages look very scary. Okay. Very scary because we are below the 21. We are below the 50. Everyone has been calling that we are going to touch the 200, but we're in this continued trend. This guy seems like decent support right here. And looking at the stochastics, every time we've been this low, right? Boom, we bounce. Wasn't even that low before. Last time it was this low was back over here in November 2022. And we ended up bouncing from 15,000 to 25,000. So truthfully, like nobody knows what the fuck is going to happen. But the point is that it's shifting. And if I look at stocks, right? Okay, we were at 1900 here earlier. Actually, that's the wrong list that I want to show at. Okay, we were at 1900 earlier and we are getting rejected. Okay, it's perfect sense for us to get rejected there because there's just uncertainty happening. But with the Fed starting to buy back its treasury bonds, the macro is there with the fear and greed from everyone. Yes, there's some uncertainty with the Bank of Japan, with them raising rates. Where is their interest here on their 10-year? It's pretty dang high, right? But to me, this almost is somewhat not quite a hanging man, but almost a shooting star there on the daily, which we could see that down. But we look at the Dixie, it is 98. It is dropping. That is good. Getting rejected off of 100, which is great. The VIX is at 15. That is good too. Risk on. Okay. IBIT, we've got volume coming into IBIT and they are starting to create a bottom. We are seeing so much bottoms from everywhere, right? And so, yeah, with the Asian market open right now, yes, they're starting to sell, and I hate the weekend because the CME gap always gets filled, but we've got this strong CME gap that we're kind of using as support now from previous, and we are starting to create this uptrend, which is good, And I can see a 105 to 117 by Christmas. And that is what I am baking on. I truly believe that most of people are using fear porn. They're just trying to create fear because there's been so much liquidations. Gold is at an all-time high. Stocks, we do not go instantly into a recession when stocks are at an all-time high. Never, ever happens. Crypto's been the main one that is bled. And we've got some more FUD out there with MicroStrategy potentially getting delisted, but a bunch of banks are now accepting Bitcoin. It's by no happenstance that they come out with this news after Bitcoin has already been tanked and everyone is either out of money and they're scared. The capitulation has happened. So truthfully, if we look at the daily and actually the 4 hour, we get rejected from that 200 day. You can see it clear as day. It's been come right down, and it's all because Powell decides to cut rates at a 0.25. And then from there, he's like, oh, we're probably going to pause. And that's exactly what happens when we get to 94 and tank. I don't necessarily know if there's a huge order block up there. There is a gigantic order block right there. So we got to break through there. It's a sell wall, right? We do not want to get above this 94. It is major resistance. But as soon as we get above 94, really the next target, I know there's guys like Ben Cowell, he doesn't trade. He doesn't fucking trade. These guys on the internet that they either use paper money or they just tell you bullshit because they want you to be scared. I know he's a nuclear engineer, but he's been wrong more often than not. Okay. So you kind of want to have a contrarian look at this stuff. Everyone is panicking. Everyone is fearing, right? The next real block is right around 105. Everyone thinks we're going to get to 98 and reject, and we're going to make a head and shoulders and we're going to tank back down to 80. I don't believe that is going to happen. Truthfully, I see us hitting new all-time highs because if I look back on the weekly, right? On that weekly, and we see how far we are. We never touched the top of the trend line there. I mean, sure, you could move this trend line down and say that this was an overshot, but truthfully, we have not. Let me get rid of some of the order block and everything up there. No. The next step is right around that 140. Okay, we need to have euphoria. Euphoria is going to happen before things go down. And yes, I need to make videos more often because everyone is scared. And I'm telling you, now is not a time to be scared. Truthfully, now is a time to start DCAing. Spot is by far the best way to go about stuff. But if you want to trade, you can have up to $3,000 if you use my ZoomX link here. But if you trade 5x or lower, right? Ideally 3 in this kind of environment because you want to stay alive. And everyone is calling for this major floor of like 76, right? So if I go down here, it's a little concerning that we are at 91, but this floor is staying good. Everyone is saying we should be going, if I just draw a standard line, right? Is saying 74 is where we need to go. It doesn't have to happen. Okay. What is this? What is this? Where's my dumb drawing tool? Okay. We have, there's my drawing tool. Okay. We have a low. We have a higher low. We have an even higher low, right? That is a perfect setup for this guy to skyrocket to 140 or something. I'm not calling for a 200,000 Bitcoin, but I'm calling for 140 in early 2026 before March, right? And that's really where I'm potentially going to scale out of my trade that is worth $360,000 at 2.5x. I'm going to start selling around 117, 120 ish. Okay, that's this guy right here, right around here. Yeah, could make quite a bit more money if I just hang on to it. But it's been nerve-wracking to hold on to it from here because this wick to 80 scared a lot of people. It created a lot of bears, and everyone on Twitter, like literally every freaking person on Twitter has been so bearish for so long, right? And now I'm starting to see that things are starting to become, the sentiment is starting to become a little bit nicer. People are starting to get a little bit more bullish, right? My favorite tweet of the week. The 200-day moving average is at 109K. When you change to the 4-hour time frame and you look at the 200-day moving average, you're actually showing the 33. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this guy, you know. He's just he goes off of fear on everything. He seems like a really smart individual, but he doesn't show that he's actually been making money with this stuff. If he was really making money from his own calls, you would be seeing him showing that, and that's not what he's doing at all, right? So he's like the biggest bear alive. And QE ended, or quantitative easing is QT stopped. Quantitative easing is starting. Gold's at all-time high. We've got stocks at all-time high. We're getting a new Fed chair. We're cutting rates. This is all setting it up as far as we are going to have a lot of money coming in. And in that kind of environment, we don't see Bitcoin going to $60,000. I don't see stocks going to 6,500, because a lot of people that you follow on even this platform, right? They call for so low. Like this is a standard. What happens after a Fed rate is usually we have, buy the rumor, boom, 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 boom. And then as Powell starts talking, it pumps up, right? And that's what happened to the S&P 500. That's what happened to Bitcoin. Is we exploded to 94, and S&P 500 got to like 9 or 6,910. And then it started going down. Really, over the next 48 hours is where we're going to see the real trend forming. Okay. We're not overbought, right? We're not oversold. We're in an uptrend. Stocks are moving in a range that they've been in for a while. They've moved back up into this. Yes, you could say that it's a rising wedge, a rising trend line that should break down eventually. But with all the sentiment that's happening, no, we're going to see a 7,000, maybe 7,500 S&P 500 and $130,000 to $150,000 Bitcoin before we start seeing massive corrections of 20% or more. 20% correction in the stock market is considered a bear market. Bitcoin, everyone called for a bear market. They have no idea. A 30% correction is not bad. It happens so many times. So for 126 to 80, that's a 34% correction, right? Yes, we'd have to go maybe 45 to get back up top there. But what happens with bottoms is they are formed. They are formed over time. We don't normally see V-shaped recoveries. That's why a lot of the big hedge funds and everything, they like chasing fear. And they like things going down fast because people sell, and you've got a lot of people using a whole hell of a lot of leverage, and they will buy a wick back up, but it's going to take time. So things will go down, and then they'll do, and then they can recover back up. Okay. Yes. A lot of people are calling this a bear flag, and we're going to go down. As of right now, it is not a bear flag until we break below 80. It's not a bear flag. So from there, us hanging out at 91, I see us, the real line in the sand is the 94,000. We got to stay above 94,000 and close for it to be worth a damn. And from there, then we're looking at the whole 95 to 98 range. And then from there, we're looking at 98 to 105, 105 to then 110. 108 to 110 has got a lot of resistance in there. That's this block right here, right? And then after that, we shoot up to 117. And typically in December, we have seen 30% to 50% rallies into Christmas. And right now, it seems as if we may see that Santa rally, right? And if I had any more dry powder right now, I'd be using it, but I'm fully exposed. If I look at Solana, and freaking Solana has just been getting rejected like none other off of 140, 144. It does not want to get over this range here whatsoever. But what I see is we are continuing to make higher lows, which is great. We've yet to make a new higher high off of, 145, but we had the FOMC, right? And this candle does look scary because there's been a lot of selling pressure, but on the 4-hour, what are we at as far as RSI? Right in the middle. What is the daily? Daily is looking good. Daily's looking good. Weekly, getting close to oversold. Monthly, that's perfect. That's where it's been, right? We are finding a bottom. We are forming a bottom. And is this have the same sort of a trend line? Ooh, I don't want. Okay. Ooh, no, remove that. That's an important line right there. Oh, see, falling wedge. And we're trying to break above that falling wedge. And usually these guys, when we break above the falling wedge, okay, I see this going to 180, right? Again, we've got a low, we've got a higher low. We are staying above this. There's the 200-day. This is on the weekly, right? We're somewhat breaking out of this falling wedge. Boom, 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 boom. Broke out, retested, and now we're trying to maybe form a new resistance level till we're getting back up to the point of control around 176. Okay. If you guys are trading, I do have that link at the top here, right? And it's something where, truthfully, if you're looking for an entry into Solana, 128 is a really solid. I don't know if we're going to get another 120 gift. I don't know if we're going to get another 80 gift for Bitcoin, but truthfully, the entries are the scared wicks of 88 for Bitcoin, maybe close to 90, and Solana's anything close to 130, 128 is really a great entry. Price target first at that 144. Price target first is around 94 for BTC, but ultimately up to like 105, 117 if you're willing to swing it. I'm holding off for 110 to 117, but we'll see if we get that. And I'm thinking we're going to get that. If not, by Christmas, by first quarter. January seems pretty set in stone. Yes, December 19th, we have lots of, kind of a triple threat where all the options from stocks to futures to crypto, it's the third Friday of the month. We're going to have some volatility because guys are probably going to have to roll over their contracts to the next month. That is going to be somewhat volatile. December 19th is the Bank of Japan with their carry trade with raising their rates. I think they're only doing 0.25. And so that's probably going to spook people just a little bit. December 31st is when MicroStrategy is potentially going to get delisted from the indices, right? I believe that is somewhat priced in, but we've got the Fed having a new Fed chair with Kevin Hassett. We've got a lower, it's easier to borrow money because we just got the rate cut, and usually we don't see the big move until 24 to 72 hours afterwards. That's prime into the weekend. And we also have them starting on Friday buying $40 billion worth of treasuries back, which they couldn't do before. There's a lot of liquidity coming into the market. There's the Vanguard ETFs now with crypto. All the banks are now accepting people to be able to buy and sell. This is looking as if we have some possible headwinds, but the majority is good tailwinds. I'm actually quite bullish on stuff. While everyone else is scared, I'm quite bullish, okay? Until we see the S&P 500 drop below 6,600, things are good. Things are good. Bitcoin could even go to the 74 and still survive, right? I don't want it to because my liquidation is at 76 and I don't really want to add any more money, but that's where I'm heading with that. And that is where I think we are going at the moment. So for more weekly updates, subscribe, guys. Till next time, this is Johnny Crypto here to help you guys trade less emotionally. And we use fundamentals and technicals. Can't just use one.